What up? The Convo back in business for February the 3rd, 2022. Happy birthday, Erica James. You're 12 already. Pretty incredible stuff. The Leafs on a 5-game winning run after a 7-1 victory over the New Jersey Devils the other night. A bit of a break as we get ready for the All-Star festivities so Mike and I can collaborate. Yeah, I know.
Excuse me. Sorry.
It's if it's not the Wales and Campbell's conferences going at it with those amazing uniforms and Gretzky and Lemieux scoring 10 points a game, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm wagering big money on the speed contest.
Yeah, it's amazing. The Maple Leafs 5 straight wins, third in terms of win percentage in the entire NHL. Keeping on, keeping on. They gave it away in the opener with the Devils, but came back to win, and then they just blew them out in the back half of that home and home. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see the Leafs land somewhere in the middle in terms of how they put together a game and ultimately win it. Mike, what say you?
Well, I'm the observer of the disturbing trend, and the disturbing trend in the first game against New Jersey was that it was the same trend that they followed against Detroit, which was to fall behind a team that is not at their level and then have to, rally in the third period to win. And, when you're getting you're down 4-2 and you have to score 5 goals in the last 9 minutes of regulation to beat the Red Wings, who I think have some talent. There's some good young players on that team, but they're not a fully formed team. And you do the same thing to the New Jersey Devil with the almighty Akira Schmid in goal. I mean, that just tells you, like, they're not putting complete 60-minute efforts together. I know that I was jousting with some fans on social media because of my comment a few weeks back about the Leafs when they lost to Arizona, that a good team like Florida or Tampa wouldn't lose to Arizona, whereas right before the All-Star break, Colorado lost to Arizona in the shootout after winning 18 games in a row at home. And I said, at least they got a point out of it. And with the Leafs, they lost in regulation to, again, Karl Vejmelka in goal. Mm-hmm. Couldn't beat him. In the second game of the home and home, they opened up a can of whoop ass on the Devils, as you should against a team that's struggling. They, scored 4 goals in the first period, went 7-1. There was never any doubt in that game. And that's what they should have done against a team like Arizona. And in the race that they're in right now against a team like Florida and a team like Tampa that will not take off any time on most nights, you're going to have to maintain this high winning percentage to win the Atlantic Division. And honestly, Norm, I look at facing Tampa and facing Florida in the first round, and I think, based on what we've seen over the last 5 years, that the Leafs will be the underdog, and the only hope that they have in the playoffs is to win the Atlantic Division and have Florida and Tampa kick the crap out of each other in the first round. But we'll see what happens.
So those two teams have games in hand on the Maple Leafs. The Leafs with the third best winning percentage in the league right now. Mm-hmm. When all is said and done and all of these teams even out in terms of games played, do you think the Leafs can win the division, especially playing the way they play? I mean, it's fly by the seat of your pants kind of hockey. Give up a lead, come back, fall behind, and then eke it out. You wonder if, by the game 82, if that trend will get old and come back to bite them. Then again, I mean, they have a lot of talent, and with Mitch Marner coming on, and I mean, we haven't seen too much from Tavares and Nylander lately, but the expectation is those guys will come around. If all cylinders are firing and all guns are ablazing, whether this team wins the way we want it to, do you think it can win the division and put itself in a better position when the playoffs start? Because as we've talked about ad nauseum, that's when it really counts.
It will be tough. I mean, the Leafs, I think I mentioned on the previous show, after the All-Star break, they play 11 games in 17 nights. That's going to require them, to basically platoon Mrazek and Campbell every other night, because I don't even think with a day in between that it's fair to really lump a ton of games on Campbell. they have 4 games to make up on Tampa. They have 5 games to make up on Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't played Florida yet, I believe, in the regular season. So they face the team that's one of the best teams in the league 4 times in the last half of the season. So that's an opportunity to gain ground on them. But, the Leafs are going to be challenged by, making up the 8 games or 9 games that were postponed. And, some of them are going to be in front of 500 fans at the Scotiabank Arena, or as they sort of slowly ramp up to more fans. And I think that has an effect on the team because, you see what it is to have fan reaction in the building. So it will be challenging. And that's the thing. They're going to have to meet that challenge. They're going to have to win that division because honestly, if I'm them, I don't want to play Tampa Bay. I mean, I know Tampa's won 2 Stanley Cups and they're not the same team, but they've got Stamkos and Kucherov and Hedman and Vasilevsky, and good luck trying to beat that team. It's possible. Columbus did, but this is a team that's won 2 Stanley Cups. I would choose not to face that team in the first round, and Florida is just a juggernaut right now. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm for the easiest path, and that's winning the division and taking on a Boston or, Pittsburgh, and neither one of those those series would be easy. But nothing is going to be easy in the Eastern Conference.
Weren't the Leafs on an easy path?
Yeah,
last time they got into the playoffs, they were supposed to dispatch of the Habs, went up 3-1, and then what?
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, but. I'm all for, taking the easiest path. It's like, it should have worked out that way, but we know that it didn't, and we know the reasons why it didn't. There's no reason to re-legislate what happened, last year. But, with an Eastern Conference where it doesn't seem to be any doubt, what the 8 teams are going to be. The Islanders are not going to climb back into it. Detroit's not going to climb back into it. The 8 teams. 4 in the Atlantic, 4 in the Metro are going to be the 8 playoff teams. It's just a question of where they finish and who they play. And I've even looked at the fact, and I'm not saying that they should do this on purpose, but it might be an easier path for the Leafs if they finish in the wild card and play the winner of the Metro, either Carolina or the Rangers or Pittsburgh, whoever wins that division. That might be the easier path, but we'll see.
So the thing is, Mike, whether they get in as a wild card or win the division, the pressure's on. They can't just sneak in through the back door and then expectations be tempered by their slot as the playoffs begin. The Leafs could win every game between now and the end of the season, and the weight of the world will be on their shoulders because this team hasn't been able to win a round in the playoffs, this group, and it has to. If it doesn't, then what? Again, we go back to the drawing board. Is Kyle Dubas going to be fired? If not, he's going to retool. But the bar has to be higher than reaching the playoffs, especially for this group. So it really doesn't matter where they slot in. Strategically, it might be easier to play a team if you're in the wild card as opposed to finishing second or third or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to get through everybody. And maybe if they do take on a team that we expect them to lose to, with tempered expectations, they prevail. It's just the way they play this game. It doesn't seem like it's conducive to hockey, and anybody who disagrees is completely wrong because the way this team has played hockey is not conducive to success in the playoffs. I want to talk about Mitch Marner. Chris Daniels, a OG convert, brought up Rasmus Ristolainen as a potential trade target for the Maple Leafs. Jason T in the chat, and just a couple people here because this is a sneak show. Can't rely on Muzzin to be healthy based on recent history. You're going to have to rely on him regardless. And then he's asking me, please tell me if the Leafs will get a stud defenseman. I don't know if that's the proper term for it there, Jason, but we get what you're saying.
Well, and I wrote about this on Tuesday. The Leafs were in New Jersey, and their assistant GM, Lawrence Gilman, was in Philadelphia watching the Winnipeg Flyers game. Now, Winnipeg is still in the race in the Central and in the West, but they might be somebody who ends up being a seller at the
Mhm.
deadline. But they have no defensemen outwardly that I would assume that they're going to trade. They're not going to trade Morrissey or Pionk or Dillon or Schmidt. At least I don't think so. That's why my focus was on Philadelphia and the name of Ristolainen, and to a lesser extent Justin Braun have been mentioned in connection with the Leafs. Braun is more of a bottom pairing guy. His salary fits with what the Leafs could take on without having to mix in a third team or have Philadelphia retain salary. But he's a 17-minute at most defenseman. He might penalty kill, but he's not what they're looking for. I don't think they need that's a veteran to replace what Zach Bogosian was on the bottom pairing. I don't think that's what they need. They need somebody who can play 20 minutes a night, who can play the right side, who can be tough, who can penalty kill. We talked on the last show about Josh Manson. That got ramped up this week by Elliot Friedman reporting in his 32 Thoughts podcast that the Leafs are interested in him. And he joked, yeah, they've been interested in him since when Punch Imlock was GM.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Manson is the leader in terms of, if he's available, who they would like on their wish list as a defensive ad. I think Ristolainen is maybe second. And, he played in the Atlantic Division with Buffalo, so he's played against the Bruins in Tampa and Florida. He can play the minutes. He's tough. He's motivated because he's a free agent at the end of the year. The cost is probably going to be a first-round pick, but I figured that's going to be the cost of any top four defenseman. And I think that it's clear, based on how the Leafs have played since Muzzin went down, that in spite of the fact that I think Rasmus Sandin, like say next year, can handle a top four role, he can handle the minutes. He's a offensively creative player. He still gets pushed off the puck. He still, is not prepared to play those matchup tough matchups against first and second lines.
And you'd expect that from a young guy, would you not?
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, I think Liljegren is actually more prepared defensively to play, and he's a stronger kid. I think he's more prepared defensively to play that type of role. And maybe if they don't go out and get a defenseman, Liljegren is the one who pairs up with Muzzin, and Sand pairs up with Justin Hall in the third pairing. But I do think this overall depth-wise, it's clear to me that the Leafs need to add a defenseman before the deadline. And that doesn't guarantee anything. That doesn't mean if they get Ristolainen, they're all of a sudden going to beat the Panthers. They could still lose to the Panthers, but it's clear that's what they need.
Are you willing to sacrifice a first-round pick just to win the first round of the playoffs? You have the long-termers believing that organically this team will come together. The problem is, by the time it does, Austin Matthews may be a lost cause at that time, and this group may not be intact. And maybe in terms of the evolution of this organization, the grand plan, maybe these four aren't meant to be together when the Leafs finally do hoist a Stanley Cup. We got a chance to see Damon Severson. He was a guy that we were talking about as somebody who would be brought in and would be able to kind of lay down roots with the team as opposed to just being here for a short period of time. We know, Mike, regardless, if the Leafs are going to make an acquisition for a defenseman worth his weight, someone who will come in and be an impact kind of guy, the likelihood of it being a first-round pick going back to the other team is high. So, we can debate whether it's right or not. There are those who believe that you just leave your prospects alone, your potential prospects, leave them alone. And then others who feel like, and maybe we're in this camp, that look, you've got to start putting your chips on the table to make a go of it. Damon Severson, I want your comment on him. Enzo, the commissioner's asking about John Klingberg. And this is fun. We get to talk about adding on to a team that's already pretty good.
Well, if the 2-game set was an interview for Damon Severson, he failed miserably. He was terrible. He got walked. I think he was the defenseman who got walked on the Kerfoot Mikheyev shorthanded goal, and he was terrible in the game in New Jersey. So I'm not saying that he was having a good year. it just was a bad 2 games for him. And I don't know whether, based on what I just saw, whether he's the answer in terms of being sort of a shutdown physical guy. He's not an unphysical player, but I wasn't impressed. As for Enzo and his interest in Klingberg, boy, I mean, this is the thing. Klingberg is the wrong type of defenseman for what the Leafs are looking for. The only thing that Klingberg brings is he's a puck rusher and he's right-handed. Maybe that mixes well with Muzzin being the defensive hinge while Klingberg rushes the puck. But the problem here is the Leafs have enough offensive defensemen. They don't. Klingberg is a Swedish Tyson Berry, and I don't think wasting a first-round pick. And I'm saying wasting because I don't think the Leafs are not prepared to sign Klingberg for what he's looking for in terms of on the free agent market, like $8 million. So it's a pure rental. If you're going to rent for the type of defenseman that you actually need, which is a right-handed mean bastard, and that is Manson, and that is Ristolainen. That is not Klingberg.
This is the Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com, 0% on Edge, Escape, and Explorer up to 60 months. We can talk about it. All you got to do is get at me. You know how to reach me. We're doing another batch of Leafs Convo hoodies. This is very important because this is it. This is the last one we're ever going to do. And you can customize it. You can put the logo right smack dab in the middle of your chest. You can throw it up in the left corner, different colors. I have a few people on board. The Leafs Convo, gmail.com. If you're in, you're in. We're looking like $40 to $50 for one of these things. Everybody's asking me for free stuff. Just shell out, man. $50, and it's a collector's item. And I'll get you what you want. It's just they're expensive to produce, and shipping is insane. So there's no money going towards us. Like it's a nice it's a commemorative thing for you. I have some people at work who are in on them, and some OGs and converts. The problem is if you're not listening and then you come to me in a couple of months and say, hey, can I get my hands? They're gone, right? So we have a lot of OGs and converts who are really dedicated to this project, and we appreciate it very much. Get in on it. You can customize the gear, and I'll make sure you get it when we place the order. And I've asked their supplier just to hang in with us for a little bit of time while I recruit people and get people on board. It's going to be a lot of fun, and trust me, a lot of the OGs and converts who've ordered the gear in the past have been really excited about it. They really like it. It's high quality. And again, I mean, you're not so much supporting us monetarily. You're just keeping the brand alive, and we're spreading our tentacles as far as we can. Mike, we talk about the Leafs D'ing it up. Can this team play defensive hockey? And at this point now, can it make a wholesale change in its strategy and the way it goes about playing the game to enough of a degree that we can trust it'll be ironclad and a winning formula when the playoffs start? Or is this just another wait and see what the heck happens? Maybe the opposition goes down. It's their war of attrition is a lot more difficult than the Leafs, the one the Leafs will face. And maybe some puck luck will benefit the Maple Leafs, and the way they play will help them move forward. That's the big question right now. I'm really interested to see how it plays out.
Well, we know they're capable of playing the type of game that is conducive to winning in the playoffs because they played that way in November when they were absolutely red hot and they were getting great goaltending by Campbell. And maybe it's like, chicken and the egg type of thing where, is Campbell playing that great because the Leafs are playing defensively great in front of him, or are their defensive numbers great because Campbell's playing great? All I know is in November, all of it came together. And I think they lost one game or something like that. And their defensive numbers were fantastic, and his save percentage was over .940. Then that's not sustainable because from December the 1st to now, Campbell's save percentage is under 900, and his goals against is over 3. He's still 9-2-2, and that's great. But I mean, this is an 82-game exhibition schedule, and the season starts on May the 1st.
True.
So they can do whatever they want from now until April 29th, which is the end of the regular season. It really, other than qualifying for the postseason tournament, it's meaningless. Matthews can win the Rocket Richard. Campbell can be a nominee for the Vezina. No one cares. It's what you do in the playoffs. And that's really what matters. Now, they're capable of playing that, but can they play it when it counts? And can they play it against teams like Tampa, who have Stanley Cup pedigree, or Florida, who are just as good offensively as the Leafs and more physical? That's the challenge. And I don't know whether they can. And the don't know factor is the reason why Kyle Dubas at the deadline has to go out and improve this team as much as they possibly can. And you mentioned the core four. Well, one of two things is going to happen if they do lose in the first round again. Kyle Dubas is gone, or one of the core four is gone. They will not. I said this last year, and I'm still baffled that they didn't make the move. They backed the core four, and I'm not looking to trade Matthews or looking to trade Tavares or even looking to trade Marner. I continue to say the most marketable of the core four is Nylander because of the salary and because of his age and because of his quality. They could get a ton for him, and they're going to need to open up cap space to improve in the other areas of this team. So I think that is something that we will address after the playoffs. But right now, they can play the type of game they need to play. It's just right now they're not doing it.
I'm excited by what I'm seeing from the Maple Leafs within context, but name one team that plays like this that's won the Stanley Cup, that's gone through the 4 rounds and went all the way and grinded it out. Playing exactly the way, blowing leads, getting leads, giving them back, falling behind, coming. I mean, it's fun, right? And then blowing out a team that's a bottom feeder. It's awesome. But name a team that's playing like the Maple Leafs right now that won playing with this formula. You can't, or maybe you can, and maybe the Oilers did when they were just blitzkrieging teams in the early 80s.
I was just going to point that out. All right, okay, the Edmonton Oilers, great. They had Gretzky, they had Messi, they were unbelievable offensively, but when it came down to the playoffs, they played playoff hockey. They played physically. They played. Now that's a previous era, but just look at the 4 dominant teams that have won cups in the 21st century. Look at, or even in the last decade, the Kings. They were not an offensive club. They were defense and Jonathan Quick. The Blackhawks. They had Kane and Taves, so they had scoring. They had depth in the lineup, but they could play defense, and they got great goaltending. The Penguins, Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray, Crosby and Malkin, but they could play good defensively. They won a Stanley Cup without Chris Letang. And then Tampa Bay. They lost to Columbus as the type of team that Toronto is, and went out and traded for Barclay Goodrow and traded for Blake Coleman and signed Patrick Maroon and brought in Zach Bogosian, and they added these veteran guys who are hungry, who are nut cutters, and they won 2 straight Stanley Cups. So are the Leafs far enough along that their core group can fight through the crap that teams do in the playoffs and have the secondary guys and the character guys that can win games and score goals when you need it? I don't know. We'll see if Ilya Mikheyev can do that, or Pierre Engvall, or David Kampf. We'll see. It's an unknown. We don't know.
Odog Chung, can you guys please address how soft we are? If this team isn't soft physically and tactically, it's certainly soft mentally, and that's just a given. I'd like I'd like to be a fly on the wall in the in the dressing room if the Leafs are up 3-0 after the first period, and hear what Sheldon Keefe is telling these guys. Can he just not say, "That's it, guys"? I mean, when we get our opportunities, go for it. If we get tripped, let's try to score on the power play, but let's shut this effing thing down. Why can't the Leafs shut down a lead? Because if I start seeing that, and they're not scoring 6, 7, 8 goals a game, but winning 2-1, 3-1, and just playing solid defensively, I'll be more encouraged about their chances going into the playoffs. Again, we could be in a lot worse shape right now than we are. And I say we, as you know, the Leaf collective that is following this team. We got to get out of here, Mike. Just a couple things. Mitch Marner, 16 points in 7 games. He'll never exercise the demons, or at least won't until they win the Stanley Cup. And you're still going to have people who want him gone. But it's nice that he's doing what Mitch Marner typically does. And he's a nice compliment with Matthews, who's doing well. And especially now with Tavares and Nylander in a bit of a dip, someone else is carrying the weight, because certainly those guys did when Marner was gripping it too tight and obviously was injured. So this is nice. I feel like this is going to be Marner going forward, and he'll probably finish second in scoring on the team if he stays healthy throughout. And then we have not the Devils, the Carolina Hurricanes coming up on February 7th after this little all-star break that I can't wait to end. That'll be good, because guess what? Carolina is the top team in the league. Last word to you, sir.
Yeah, Marner appears to be taking on a more of a shot-first mentality. He's still maintaining his playmaking ability, but 7 goals in 7 straight games, shorthanded, power play. I mean, it's all coming together after he was out with COVID. The Carolina is going to be a challenge. Obviously, they've played really well. It's the return of Freddie Anderson. I'm sure there'll be a video presentation in front of 500 fans, which, and that's the thing. Honestly, Freddie Anderson was a really good Leaf for 5 years. They did the same thing for Zach Hyman. There was nobody in the building. It's like, I think they deserve a video presentation when there are actually fans in the stands and they can show their appreciation to them, rather than in front of like the concession staff and Carlton the Bear. It's like, it's embarrassing. So
yeah, the way Freddie went out, though, I'm sure he's just wanting to forget about what happened here. I mean, he was the guy, and then he wasn't.
It's about respect.
No, 100%. Internally, and I'm sure the guys care about him, but business is business, and you know how the way this goes. You lose your shot, someone else takes over, you may never get it back, but he's in a better place for him right now. And we're in a pretty good place, all things considered, but we've got to talk about the issues, and we have to confront this team's shortcomings. And for as well as the team has played, there are definite shortcomings that this team has to figure out, tie up, overcome to move forward. And the results remain to be seen, Mr. Augello. We'll talk on Sunday, and I'll get your prediction on the big Rams-Bengals showdown. That's going to be a ratings bonanza. Oh, I know. I know. You're super excited. Okay, for Mike, I'm Norm. See you in a few days.